Welcome everyone, this is the newest episode of Bodhi Talks, and today I have a very special guest. This is Kali. She's our guest this week at Bodhi Surf Yoga. And Kali, I wanted to talk to you because obviously we've had a long conversation about what you do in your daily life, in your profession. And as the title gives away, Kali works with Ikigai. Now for for everyone who doesn't know what Ikigai means, stands for, what the history behind that is, would you mind elaborating a little bit about that concept?
Yeah, sure. I find that the easiest way to start with this question is actually by talking about what it's not, because maybe some who are listening right now will have seen this Venn diagram of Ikigai. It's something that's been circulating for years, that has 4 circles, what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And this is a really great personal development tool, but in fact it's not Ikigai. And Ikigai is so much bigger. And so the reason that this came about, I think, is worthwhile talking about. And it's very interesting. In 2009, Dan Buettner, who's an author and an educator and a New York Times bestselling author, he gave a TED Talk, and it was entitled How to Live to Be 100 Plus. It's a very good TED Talk, it's worth watching. And in there he talked about the blue zones, and Okinawa, Japan being one of the blue zones, where people who live longer than anywhere else in the world. And he made reference to the word Ikigai. Now, Mark Wynn, who is a business coach and entrepreneur, watched this TED Talk and he thought, Ikigai, that's so interesting. And somewhere around that time, he saw a Venn diagram from a Spanish astrologer and author, Andrés Suzunaga, who had made a Venn diagram on purpose. It's the purpose Venn diagram. And Mark Wynn thought, Ikigai, and these 4 circles, and he took the word Ikigai and he put it into the middle of the Venn diagram, sent it out into the universe, and now everyone thinks that this is Ikigai.
It became famous.
It became famous, it went viral. You have lots of coaches that are Ikigai coaches using this Venn diagram. And like I said, it is a very helpful personal development tool. But Ikigai is an authentic, indigenous Japanese philosophy on well-being that goes beyond these 4 things. And so what it is, if we take actually the word, Iki comes from the verb to live, and Gai means value. So if we translate it just like that, it's the value of living. It's also been referred to as the reason we get up in the morning, or having similarities with raison d'être, which is the French philosophy. And what I like to think of Ikigai is really a building of self-awareness that allows you to cultivate your inner potential while being authentic in your relationships, in your creative processes, and in your hobbies.
Mm-hmm. That is really interesting. I love that part because obviously when we first talked, for me it was exactly that. I knew the Venn diagram and it helped me personally, but knowing more about the concept now through talking to you is really interesting. In your experience, because now at this point you've worked with people, you are a certified Ikigai coach, you could say. Mm-hmm. What has been, what is the biggest challenge that people face, or where can this philosophy and concept help people? Like who could it help, basically?
So within our business, Vibrant Ikigai, we coach specifically women, particularly women. We're open to anyone who would like to work with us, but we focus on women. And where we find the Ikigai philosophy helpful is in anyone who is sort of stuck in their life, they're going through the motions, they don't find the joy anymore, things have become routine, but also in a practical way of career transitions, women who are expats that are trying to find their place in their new life, trailing spouses who are following their partners around, These are the types of women that we're typically working with, and also women who just want to take the next step in their personal development, that they're looking for more tools on how they can have greater well-being, how they can live more vibrant and dynamic lives. And that's really what the Ikigai philosophy can do. It provides tools for increased well-being.
That's perfect, because we call this, we have someone joining in. We call this the library of well-being. Sorry, we gotta get her awake because someone's allergic.
Yes, they do.
Forgot that in the first.
I love them.
No. Yeah, they love you. I think they can sense it. They
Yeah.
smell it, and they just want to come. Getting back to the Ikigai philosophy a little bit, what did you change in your personal life after learning more about Ikigai? What were changes that you made for your personal life, basically?
So, wow, I mean, Ikigai has been such a game changer for me personally. And I guess learning about the philosophy has changed really how I look at the world, how I look at myself, how I look at my relationships. And it's kind of the filter that I show up daily in my life now. Mm-hmm. So I've been practicing yoga and meditation and mindfulness for a long time. And these are all helpful tools. And Ikigai has just come together with those tools to create a building of awareness of myself. And with that awareness, being able to pursue my Ikigai and knowing what my Ikigais are, so that I can continue in my life in a way that is purposeful, that is fulfilled. And that's everything from my daily joys, the things that I do in my morning routine, to also how I set my goals, how I look forward into the future, and how I engage with my family and my friends and my community.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing you've mentioned, and that I personally obviously find very interesting, you're also getting to be a certified, yoga instructor, or basically getting participating in a yoga teacher training, meaning learning more about the yoga practice. Mm-hmm. Now, where do you see similarities of Ikigai and your yoga practice? Also, having had you in the yoga classes this whole week, obviously I saw your practice is very advanced and very centered. I love seeing practitioners like you who are very focused on their breath, very self-aware, another keyword. So just in talking about Ikigai, I saw some things where I was like, oh, this is very parallel to what we would practice in yoga as well. So now that you practice both, where do you see similarities? Where do you see benefit? Maybe one benefits another?
Absolutely. So when we talk about Ikigai, it's having a feeling of Ikigai or a sense of Ikigai. And there was some very interesting research from a Japanese researcher in Canada called Shintaro Kono. And he's a leisure and well-being Ikigai researcher. And he looks at leisure and how it can be how it can build on your sense of Ikigai in life. And when he looked at that, he came up with 4 valued experiences. That is stimulation, effort, enjoyment, and comfort. And so when we look at our leisure activities, if we can find these 4, at least some of them, if ideally not all of them, in the activities that we do, we will have a high level of Ikigai, a high level sense of Ikigai. And so with yoga, for me, this really fits into all 4 of these valued experiences. So when I am on the mat, I have to put forth an effort. I am stimulated by my practice, by the community that's around me in my yoga practice. I find comfort with that grounding that I get from my yoga practice, and also in Shavasana, where it all kind of comes together. And it's enjoyable. It's incredibly enjoyable. So yoga is a source of Ikigai for me. And I think it's 2 ways for me, actually, because it's a source of Ikigai. So when we think about Ikigai, you have a source like yoga, like a child, and then you have the feelings around that source. And the great thing about it is they're all unique. It's it's private to you. It's what your Ikigai is. No Ikigai is the same, even if the source is the same. The feelings aren't always going to be the same. And so, for me, yoga is a source of my Ikigai, giving me a sense of Ikigai. I feel grounded, I feel joy, I feel comfort, I feel stimulation, some of those things that we already just said. But it also provides me a tool for pursuing my Ikigai. And the way that it does that is that in our yoga practice, we bring together our mind, our body, our spirit with our breath. And it's really about building our awareness of self. And through the way that we practice yoga, we get more and more in touch with who we are, how our body works, how our mind comes together with our body. And that awareness is something that helps me when I'm pursuing various aspects of Ikigai in my life. So I think they are beautifully complementary to each other, and both for me complement the other. And I would almost say that they're the opposite side of the same coin.
Oh, it's lovely. I see that. I totally see that. I always say too, in yoga is such an all-encompassing term. At the end of the day, if the asana or the physical yoga practice is nothing for you, you know, meditation might be another branch, or breath work, whatever. And then Ikigai I do see as like an extension of that too, because it's all at the end of the day about creating the self-awareness and going inside and then learning from yourself, basically, from your own body and what it's telling you or your mind is telling you.
Exactly.
So that's beautiful. So we do have this little fire round of questions every time we do the Bodhi Talks, the wellness, the library of well-being, basically. So the first question is, if you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
I love these questions.
You're right.
So I think, so I love foreign languages, and I love language learning, and I love connecting with people. And so I think if I could have a superpower, I would want to be fluent in all the world's languages. So I could connect with everyone, and I believe that to understand a culture, you need to know the language, and that they're intertwined, inexplicably intertwined. And so to be able to connect fully with people everywhere, to be able to speak their language, to understand their ways of seeing and knowing and doing, yeah, that would be my superpower.
That's cool. Would you include animals in that?
Oh.
Would you want to talk with animals?
I don't want to be greedy. I could just take the people.
Okay, yeah. I just thought about that. That was always a dream when I was a kid. I was like, I wish I could just talk to my pets. And well, I guess you technically can, but you know, in their language. The second question would be, and this is just a very superficial one, you know, what has been your biggest life lesson? No, it's a big one.
So many.
I know. Maybe thus far, let's put it that way.
Well, I just turned 40, so I've been reflecting on lots of these big questions as of late. And I think one of my biggest life lessons is relatively simple, but something that I continuously have to remind myself of, and that is that we can control what we can control. And I want to try to take control of my life. And the things that I can't control, I just need to let go. And I think the more we can do that, the happier we are.
Oh, I love that. That's a good lesson to learn.
Good one, right?
Yeah, I really like that. That's such an valuable one for anyone, I would say. The last question is, what does well-being mean for you, to you? Yeah.
Well, I think it very much aligns with Ikigai and the philosophy of Ikigai, and that is, I think, to experience a high level of well-being, you need to be aligned with your values. You need to be authentic and true to yourself. And I think being present and pursuing the things that you love, if you have those things in your life, you're going to experience a very high level of well-being.
I love that. That's very all-encompassing. So before we, wrap this up, I kind of wanted to leave the stage open a little bit. Is there anything, because obviously from my limited knowledge of Ikigai, there are only certain questions that I could come up with. Is there anything in the philosophy, anything you see people or you think people should know that we haven't shared yet, or maybe even something in your personal experience you want to share when it comes to this concept, when it comes to the combination with yoga, anything that is on your heart, if there's anything we didn't touch upon yet?
Well, there is one thing that I always like to bring up when I talk about Ikigai, because one, I think it's important, and it's also how we structure our work at Vibrant Ikigai. And I want to give credit where credit is due, and that is Kamiya Mieko. She's a Japanese psychiatrist, linguist, translator. She's an amazing woman in her own right, and she's kind of the mother of Ikigai. She wrote a book that was published in 1966 that's still viewed to be the Bible of Ikigai. It's unfortunately not translated into English, so people can't pick it up and read it. Hopefully it will be at some point. And she doesn't get a lot of credit in the positive psychology world for the work that she did, but it really was groundbreaking. And what she did was her book is her PhD dissertation. And she worked with patients that have Hansen's disease, so leprosy. She was in a leprosy colony in Japan, and she was looking at the human condition where there wasn't what one might think a lot to live for. So she was looking to see where these patients had Ikigai, how they had Ikigai, if they had Ikigai, and what were the areas of their life that needed to be fulfilled and satisfied for them to have Ikigai. And she came up with some basic needs that we need in our life to have a high level of Ikigai. And it's her needs that we actually use in our coaching program to work with our clients to see where they are lacking in their fulfillment of these needs, where they are satisfying these needs. And yeah, I think that's an important piece to all of this, because there are some really practical tools that come from the philosophy of Ikigai. And we do, it's not a framework, it's not a Venn diagram, but there are some real concrete things that we can look to. And it's not as existential as, this just idea of reason for being, or what makes your life worth living. And yeah, I think
that is a big thing. Just to second down on that one, so she did the study with the leprosy, with people having leprosy, right? And she found out that there was a higher sense of Ikigai than even amongst healthier people in that sense.
So it didn't quite break down like that. It was more in the sense that she was surprised to see that even some of the more advanced leprosy patients, meaning they had a loss of limbs, they had deformities, some of them couldn't see, couldn't hear, some of them had higher senses of Ikigai than those that were less sick. And what she could see from that was this feeling of Ikigai that they had, and looking at where they were fulfilling these needs that she developed. And so it wasn't necessarily that they had more than others. Some had less, some had more, but she could kind of figure out, okay, this person who couldn't see, couldn't hear, they were able to find joy in being outside and touching the leaves and feeling the nature that was around them. Or someone who couldn't see but could hear, listening to the birds each day, being in the present moment, and drinking that in gave them a sense of Ikigai. So through her work, she developed these needs that we as humans, and it doesn't have to be Japanese people, it doesn't have to be leprosy patients, but our human condition wants us to be fulfilled and to have a high sense of well-being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's lovely. So for those of you who speak Japanese, go grab that book from 1966. The name is
Kamiya Mieko, and the book is Ikigai ni Suto.
Love it. Very, very nice. Kali, thank you so much for taking the time. This was very lovely. I knew this was going to be good after we've had already such a long, coffee morning break and talked about everything. I'm very happy you got to share this. And then obviously I want you to take the stage a little bit. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about Ikigai?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram at Vibrant Ikigai. Also come to our website. We offer services, webinar services that give an overview of some of these themes that we were talking about and the needs of Ikigai. And then we also do a one-to-one coaching program that lasts for 3 months, where we work through the individual needs and have a personalized deep dive into uncovering Ikigais for our clients.
Oh my God, I wish you all the best with all your business, in the future, and I really hope that that the concept gets more out there, the philosophy, and people know more about it. It definitely changed the way I viewed it and helped me in many different ways so far. So I think you're going to do great work and help a lot of people.
I so appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yay!
Thank you.